The following program is paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management, providing financial advice since 1993. At Lifespan Wealth Management, the main thing they do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage their clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, contact their office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience, and you can learn more about them by visiting their website at retirerelax.com. While you're on the site, visit the special report section, which provides great financial education information on many different topics. You can also sign up to receive their digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money. They also offer seminars to the community at no cost. If you're looking for a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give them a call to discuss the topics you would like them to cover. Again, their contact number is 478-922-8100. Now, from the Macon studio of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, Jonathan Eisner, and Corey Albrecht.
So, this is Sherry. Randy's out today helping his mom by repairing some things around her house and property. And it made me think how thankful I am that we have Corey and Jonathan and that I'm not doing this by myself like I used to do when it was just me and Steve Rosenberg. So we've come a long way, and I'm just really appreciate you guys and all the work that you help do around here. Anyway,
Happy to be here.
Yep. So, question, are you invested in gold? We added it to the portfolio about a year ago, and here's the latest news in case you're wondering what's going on with the price. Gold was supposed to be a hiding place for investors during a Middle East conflict. Instead, since the Iran war started on February 28th, the metal has dropped 11%, raising questions about its safe haven reputation. That outcome seems backward. Safe haven assets are supposed to rise in price when the world gets shaky, yet a new research note from LPL Financial, one of the country's largest independent broker-dealers, argues the sell-off isn't a sign of failure. Rather than simply acting as a refuge, gold is serving as a different role right now. It functions as part commodity, part reserve asset, and during periods of stress, a stand-in for dollars. Several Persian Gulf states, led by the United Arab Emirates, are facing dollar funding pressures after disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz curtailed oil exports and tanker traffic. Oil sales generate dollars. Fewer sales mean fewer dollars flowing into the region. And when bills come due, governments need liquidity more than the store of value. Turkey offers a real-world example. Facing increased pressure on the lira after the energy shock, the country's central bank sold and swapped $3 billion worth of gold, that's billion with a B, gold reserves in a single week in March to stabilize its markets. That helps explain gold's unusual weakness. Geopolitical fear normally drives investors toward gold, but when governments and central banks need cash, gold becomes a funding source instead. The pressure may not be over. Governments hit by major energy disruptions typically focus first on rebuilding fuel supplies, stabilizing budgets, and replenishing foreign exchange reserves in the aftermath, all of which require dollars. Gold's recent decline doesn't mean investors are losing faith in it. The falling price, however, shows that some of the world's largest holders need cash more than protection. And for an asset counted on to provide financial flexibility during crises, that means gold is doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yep, gold has been on an interesting ride, to say the least.
Big time.
Okay, so next topic, U.S. rakes in $3 billion in 90 days from the Intel stock. Trump authorized the U.S. government to acquire a 10% stake in the semiconductor manufacturer last August. President Trump says that the U.S. has brought in $30 billion in funds generated from federal stock holdings in Intel over the last 90 days alone. Trump made the announcement on Thursday, highlighting that he authorized the U.S. government to invest in the semiconductor manufacturing company. Trump revealed in August of last year that Intel had agreed to the federal government acquiring a 10% stake in their company. Intel stock continues to rise. I'm very proud of that company in that I am responsible for making the United States of America over $30 billion in the last 90 days on that stock alone.
Isn't that cool?
According to Trump. Yep. Very cool. Congratulations to Intel on doing such a great job. And more importantly, congratulations to the people of the United States for making such a good investment.
The administration announced the deal with Intel when the company was struggling last year. Semiconductors power everything from smartphones to defense systems, and Intel's slowdown was a national security concern. Intel unveiled new chip manufacturing milestones in early January, accounting for much of its growth. Nevertheless, former Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger warned at the time that the United States still had a long way to go to reclaim chip production from Asia. Much of the world's advanced chip manufacturing remains concentrated in Asia, particularly Taiwan. U.S. officials have said that the imbalance poses economic and national security concerns. Gelsinger said it's critical that manufacturing return to the United States while cautioning that process will take time.
I agree. So, who needs a trust? A woman called me this week and explained that she and her husband established a trust on the advice from an attorney. He has since passed, and she has sold their home and lives in an apartment and has $300,000 in CDs, and that's it. She lives on Social Security. I don't know why an attorney would advise that she have a trust and to put everything into it. I told her to add her beneficiary's name to the CDs and to give the beneficiary a list of the CDs and where they are held. She doesn't need a trust. I am seeing more and more of this, so get some financial advice before you pay for a trust.
Yeah. But if you are set on getting a trust, you need to understand them and be sure to know the different types before you go see the lawyer. We're going to discuss revocable and irrevocable trusts right here. Let's start with revocable, also called a living trust, is an estate planning tool that lets you place assets into a trust during your lifetime while maintaining control over them. Control simply means that you can add assets to the trust and remove them at any time. There are benefits of a revocable trust. First and foremost is that the assets in the trust pass directly to your beneficiaries without having to go through probate. That's a biggie. This can save time, legal fees, and sometimes reduce lengthy delays with probate.
Another benefit is that you keep full control over the assets in the trust. Like Jonathan said, you can add or remove items at will, and you can even revoke the trust entirely if you choose. And you usually serve as the trustee while you're alive. Another advantage is that if you are mentally or physically unable to manage your finances, a successor trustee can step in immediately, and this avoids court-appointed guardianships. Lastly, if you own property in multiple states, the trust avoids separate probate proceedings in each state.
Those are good benefits, so let's quickly cover the cons of a revocable trust. There is no tax advantage while you are alive. The IRS treats the assets in the trust like you still own them in a revocable trust. The upfront cost is high, but you can save money later by avoiding probate. You must be proactive in funding the assets in the trust. If you forget to name the asset, it may still go through probate. There is no asset protection. Creditors and lawsuits can still reach these assets. There is no legal shield. Remember that you will still need what they call a pour-over will, which is used to catch any assets not placed in the trust. But like I've always said, if you have a small or simple estate, or perhaps you are comfortable with the probate process in your state, or you just don't want to spend all that money, then purchasing a trust may not be worth it.
Probably a will would take care of those things
Right.
if that's your situation, a will alone. But that alone is a lot to think about. Irrevocable trust is another estate planning tool where once you transfer assets into the trust, you generally cannot change, amend, or revoke anything except in limited circumstances. Because you give up control, it comes with very different benefits and trade-offs compared to a revocable trust.
Probably the greatest benefit in that is that assets in this type of trust are typically protected from creditors and lawsuits. Since you no longer legally own them personally, they are harder to reach during lawsuits and bankruptcy claims. Another thing is that an irrevocable trust is reduce estate taxes. It does this because it removes assets from your taxable estate. This can significantly reduce or even eliminate estate taxes for larger estates. This is what very wealthy families use to transfer wealth across generations.
Irrevocable trusts have other benefits that include tax planning opportunities and control over asset distribution, but these tools also have a few cons that you should know about. The biggest is that generally you cannot change or undo the trust, and you give up ownership over control of the assets. These trusts are complicated and require careful legal drafting and higher legal and administrative fees. Sometimes even changing beneficiaries requires court approval and beneficiary consent. But there are times when an irrevocable trust makes sense. When you want to reduce taxes, or you may need asset protection from legal liability or creditors, or you are conducting a long-term care exercise, remember the 5-year look back, or maybe you are just trying to lock in wealth for future generations. These are all good reasons to look into an irrevocable trust. But if you need ongoing flexibility or are unsure about future financial needs, or you have a moderate or small estate, or even if you just don't want to give up the control of your assets, then an irrevocable trust may not be ideal for you. So Randy and I created a revocable trust last year, and it is a beneficiary of all of our investment accounts. We did this because we have 2 kids, and all of our money is in IRA-type accounts, which have to be liquidated by the 10th year. So the trust deals with the liquidation, not our kids, and they will not pay the taxes on these benefits. So if you would like to see how this could work for you, contact an attorney and find out from them.
Yeah. And one that is not in some information that's not in here for whatever reason is that irrevocable trust, and Sherry, you mentioned this, irrevocable trust, if you put property in an irrevocable trust, then it's going to lose its step up in cost basis in all likelihood, because an irrevocable trust takes that property outside of your taxable estate. And so thus the step up in cost basis, and I know that's a big one that we talk about all the time, that's lost potentially or likely if an irrevocable trust is used. So again, before you take any of these steps, be sure you call somebody who knows what they are talking about.
And get a recommendation from somebody too, because I think some of these attorneys, like the one I mentioned earlier about my client having a trust and she has $300,000 makes no sense.
Right.
And I don't know what they paid to get that done. So just be careful, be cautious. If you meet with somebody and you feel like they're kind of pushing on you to do something,
Get a
instead
second
of
opinion.
educating you, I would get a second opinion. Big
Absolutely.
time.
Yep. Okay. OpenAI, NVIDIA, Alphabet, and more sign AI deal with the Pentagon for classified military use. Late last week, the Pentagon announced agreements with 7 tech firms. The agreements accelerate the transformation toward establishing the United States military as an AI-first fighting force. The Pentagon announced agreements with OpenAI, Alphabet, NVIDIA, SpaceX, Microsoft, Amazon, and Reflection for their AI tools to be used on the agency's classified networks for lawful operational use. The company's AI capabilities will be integrated into the Pentagon's networks to streamline data analysis, elevate situational understanding, and augment warfighter decision-making in complex operational environments.
Randy's not here today, but he gave me his thoughts on this. He thinks it is a great move and one he hopes can solve some of the communication issues between the services. Since AI is a new technology, it is the right time to deploy new tools that each of the services can adopt and modify to meet their specific needs, while at the same time still being able to plug into another service program at a moment's notice in a joint operation environment. He says that historically, each service contracts for the equipment they want without regard to how the product can be used when working with other services. Communications gear is a good example. Some comm systems could not be used between Army and ground units and Air Force planes, and that causes interconnectivity issues. There are workarounds, but that also takes time and additional time and resources. Look, we have some of the best companies in the world at our disposal, and they are willing to help the government. Yes, they will make money in the process, but that is what they do, and he's okay with that, and so am I. If these tools could enable our warriors to cut through the fog of war by using augmented warfighter decision-making tools, then he is all for it. If it allows more precise targeting and reduces the time to identify a target and strike a target, he's all for that as well. If it can reduce civilian casualties, then he's for that too. Another thing he likes is that the Pentagon is working with multiple vendors rather than relying on a single partner. He has seen the single partner contracts in the DoD before, and too often they fall short in the mark on form and function. Using multiple vendors, in a sense, prevents vendor lock and allows a lot of flexibility and adaptability for the Pentagon to get what they need. And Randy served in the military 32 years. He was very involved in the comm squadron and situations like this, so that's his opinion on all of this, which is very positive.
Next up, a report finds new home buyers in some cities pay double the property taxes of their neighbors. This annual study documents the wide range of property tax rates in more than 100 U.S. cities and helps explain why they vary so much. The report identifies 4 key factors that explain most of the variation in property tax rates: property tax reliance, property value, and the level of local government spending and classification. That's whether a city tax homesteads at a lower rate than they tax other types of properties. The report shows that assessment limits, which restricts how fast a property's taxable value can grow from year to year, regardless of what is happening in the broader housing market, continues to drive inequalities. This happens because when a home is sold, the taxable value typically resets to the current market value.
Yep. Therefore, new buyers immediately face the full tax burden, while neighbors in similar homes may pay taxes on a fraction of the actual market value. The tax inequities created by assessment limits only compound over time. The longer a homeowner stays in their house and the faster the local home values rise, the wider the gap grows. It's especially extreme in cities with hot real estate markets like Miami. Assessment limits are often presented as straightforward tax relief, but their annual analysis continues to show that assessment limits have a number of negative consequences. They create large disparities in tax bills for similar homes and shift the burden to new homeowners.
So I have a client who went through this recently and defied it. He looked up every neighbor's tax burden and created a spreadsheet and used this to explain the problem to the city, and they reduced his taxes. This is your right. If you feel your taxes are too high, do some research. The tax records are online. See what your neighbors are paying, and if they are not paying the same as you for the same type of property, that you have grounds to protest their tax bill.
Yeah. Okay. Credit expert warns borrowers about the American drain as new mortgage scoring models take effect. Acceptance of Vantage Score 4.0 represents the first major change to mortgage credit requirements in over 30 years. Following a landmark announcement from HUD and the FHFA to accept Vantage Score 4.0 and FICO Score 10T, the mortgage industry is bracing for a surge of new applicants. Micah Smith, a leading credit repair influencer, says that while the inclusion of rent and utilities is a landmark shift, borrowers must be very wary of the American drain, he calls it. People who were invisible in the system, no cards, no loans, no score, can now potentially show up with a real number, Smith said, while also cautioning that the new models are more rigorous than many realize. People say getting a home is the American dream. I call it the American drain when you don't do it properly. The acceptance of Vantage Score 4.0 represents the first major change to mortgage credit requirements in over 3 decades and stems from the 2018 Credit Score Competition Act signed by President Trump during his first administration. Everything being put into place right now is to help more people get into homes and to update a system that has not been updated in over 30 years. FICO has been in place since 1989.
A key benefit highlighted by FHFA Director Bill Polt is the ability to account for rent payments, aiming to help creditworthy Americans who may not have traditional credit card debt, but who have a perfect history of paying their bills. Rent and utilities now count when reported. But here's the flip side nobody's talking about. If your rent is being reported, a late payment potentially can hurt you too. Reporting cuts both ways. Large student loan repayments, auto loans, or personal loans can still drag down your credit score and mortgage eligibility, despite the new scoring models. While a borrower cannot choose which scoring model a lender uses, Smith predicts banks will probably lean towards pulling Vantage Score 4.0 because FICO traditionally charges $9.99 per credit report pull, and Vantage Score costs 99 cents.
Yep, and Smith said, to me, this is starting to look like a race to the bottom, where Vantage Score potentially ends up monopolizing the very market it claimed to open up. Lending as a whole is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and people are in more debt than they have ever been. My concern is this: giving more people access to mortgages who didn't previously understand credit means they're probably still coming in at a pretty subpar credit score. However, this does not raise any recession-level concerns for Smith. He said, I do not see a repeat of 2008 and 2009. Banks now have skin in the game. Back then, there was no real repercussion for lenders selling bad loans off to secondary markets. That guardrail now exists. We're not going to see a crash in that sense, according to Smith.
So just FYI, I had a client review last week, and toward the end of the review, they remarked that Trump wants to be able to take control of their bank accounts. I know this is not exactly related, but it's a similar type of story.
Yeah.
So be very careful what news source you are listening to, and here's the truth. Federal and state agencies can access your bank account under several legal frameworks, ranging from criminal investigations and tax collection to child support enforcement and public benefits verification. In most cases, the government must follow specific notice and due process requirements before it touches your money. The protections are real but narrower than many people expect, and knowing when they apply helps you respond before a freeze or seizure catches up you off guard. So, no, my client accounts are not going to be impacted by Trump. All righty. Next up, President Trump has signed an executive order directing the launch of a new website for private sector workers without access to employer-sponsored retirement plans to browse and enroll in qualifying accounts. The portal, to be called TrumpIRA.gov, is set to be operational by January. Trump said, "You'll then be able to access the same type of retirement accounts that federal employees enjoy through the Thrift Savings Plan, which are incredible as part of the Federal Savers Match program." Trump told reporters low-income Americans will be eligible to receive up to $1,000 per year in matching funds deposited directly into their accounts. The scale of the coverage gap the order is aimed at addressing is substantial. A 2025 Pew Charitable Trust report, also cited by AARP, found that roughly 56 million private sector workers have no retirement plan available through their employer, representing close to half of the U.S. workforce in that segment. Another option, if you own your own business and do not have employees, which was me years ago, is to open a SEP IRA. You can contribute 25% of your total compensation up to $72,000, which means you don't pay taxes on this income. It is one of the best deals ever. So call us if you want more information about this. Do you guys want to make any more comments about the SEP?
Yeah, just that, and we've done a few of these too, but solo 401ks are also a popular option for people in that same situation. Now, depends on your tax situation, and we always get an accountant involved in the conversation to recommend which one the client should do. But we help clients with all the above: simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, solo 401ks.
Yep.
So definitely something if you need help with that we can help.
Or you even just have questions about how it works or
Right.
how it impacts your finances. I mean, any of that, you can come see us for a consultation and it costs you nothing.
Yep, agreed. All right, forget big tech. Small businesses will hire nearly 1 million grads in 2026. And some of the hottest roles are gloriously AI-proof. That's very refreshing.
Right.
While fresh-faced grads are throwing their hats in the ring for a job at the world's biggest companies, they could have a good shot at small businesses ramping up hiring. And some of the jobs that they're recruiting for, the most for, could stand the test of time in the AI revolution. About 974,000 recent graduates, aged 20 to 24, will be hired at small businesses, a small business being something between 1 and 49 employees, during the 2026 hiring season. It's a small bump from last year's onboarding of 962,000 early career workers, but the market is still not fully returned to the COVID years of 2020 to 2022 when employers went on a hiring blitz. Still, there's also been improvement with the net new grad job creation. It's crept up from a low of 60,000 in 2023 to over 100,000 in 2026.
That's wow. Mom and pop businesses seem to be enthusiastically hiring young workers while titans of industry pull entry-level listings from their sites. Big companies argue that AI can now do the work of junior staffers, but some smaller owners are pushing back on that notion, actively recruiting recent grads for their tech-savvy and relationship-building skills. Mark Cuban even picked up on the trend, advising fresh-faced grads to look at small companies for opportunities. Large companies are playing defense. Small businesses are playing offense, says one economist. When big employers pull back on entry-level hiring, small businesses see an opening. Small business owners are also taking advantage of this, being the first graduating class that grew up with AI as a native tool, not a new skill to learn, and that makes them uniquely valuable for businesses looking to modernize fast. While these employers are steadily pulling stronger hiring numbers, the talent they're looking to snag has changed entirely.
Career tracks that once guaranteed bountiful six-figure jobs post-graduation have since dried up. Financial analysts, software engineers, and research associates have all suffered the biggest decline in their share of the new grad job market. Meanwhile, both AI-centric gigs and hands-on roles are shifting as the strongest growing titles for budding professionals. Founding engineers and AI engineers both saw the strongest growth, and conversely, AI-proof roles like the field managers and service technicians are right at the top with them. And it could be capturing an interesting dichotomy in Gen Z's labor market, those leaning into tech for success and those making their mark in the physical trades. The AI revolution is ramping up tech-savvy gigs and blue-collar work.
While Gen Zers leaving college are advised to embrace AI or risk being left behind in their careers, a growing number of young professionals are ditching desk jobs for the trades, and they could be tapping into a goldmine of well-paid work from small businesses to large. Many of these roles, from carpenters to service technicians, offer the ideal scenario of being your own boss while paying well. More Gen Z talent is catching up. Enrollment in vocational-focused community colleges jumped 16% in 2024, reaching the highest level since the National Student Clearinghouse began tracking the data in 2018.
Yep. Meanwhile, certain tech roles are also having a renaissance of their own. AI engineer is the fastest growing job title for young workers on LinkedIn in 2026, according to the platform's analysis from earlier this year. And between 2023 and 2025, about 75,000 of 639,000 new AI-related U.S. job postings added to the career site were AI engineer roles. Enterprise AI platform PromptQL even offered $900 hourly wages to its AI engineers building and deploying AI agents within the business. The company's CEO said that the sky-high compensation reflects their intuition and technical prowess in keeping up with the AI revolution. The CEO said, "We're seeing more AI engineers and more founding engineers because companies have an urgent need for young people who are native to AI to innovate." The graduating class of 2026 is the first college cohort to complete its entire higher education in the AI era, and many small business leaders see these young people as bringing vital cutting-edge AI skills to their companies.
So I met with a client yesterday, and her two grands want to go to college but don't have a specific career in mind, and they would also take on a lot of student loan debt. I showed her the website from the Central Georgia Tech and that she had never heard of the free high-demand career education, that she's going to check it out with them. And I'm so glad we had this conversation and that she mentioned this, because so many people don't know about these 20 programs that are totally free because of the high-demand careers. So please check it out.
You've been listening to Your Money, brought to you by Lifespan Wealth Management, proudly serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. Our mission? Helping folks just like you plan for a secure and stress-free retirement. Need a trusted financial advisor? Call us today at 478-922-8100 and schedule your complimentary consultation at our Macon or Warner Robins office. Want to learn more? Visit us anytime at retirerelax.com. Because when you plan smart, you can retire and relax. And here's something extra. We offer free educational seminars for the community. If your group needs a guest speaker, give us a call and let's make it happen. That's 478-922-8100. Now, let's get back to the show.
Next up, I invested for the first time at 47. Can I retire in 10 years? After decades of playing it safe with cash savings, Catherine Edge realized she needed to take some risks. Catherine made her first investment at the end of last year when she began moving $60,000 from her cash savings into the stock market. Edge, 47, had always saved, but only ever in cash in her bank account. She had a workplace pension from her job at her local council, but was put off by the ups and downs of the stock market. She liked knowing that her money was safe and not exposed to risk. She was comfortable seeing the balance there. That changed last August when she realized that the returns on cash were unlikely to get her to her goal of retiring at 57. Her parents, who held investments at a local investment company, encouraged her to visit a financial advisor at their firm.
She says the visit kickstarted her into looking at when she could take her pension and what she would need to do with her savings to get her to her get her bearings regarding retirement. Instinctively, she knew that if she just left it in cash, she wouldn't have that option to retire. Edge did not have an appetite for the highest level of risk, but knew she needed better returns on her savings. After 3 meetings with a financial advisor, she transferred $60,000 of cash savings to the brokerage firm. Her investments are held in a managed portfolio of different assets, including equities, bonds, and cash. Even with the occasional bumpy period, such as the one we've been in since the outbreak of the war in Iran last month, the market tends to bounce back overall.
Yeah. The Barclays Equity Gilt Study, which has recorded the returns from different asset types since 1899, found that stocks grew an average of 1.8% a year adjusted for inflation in the 10 years ending in 2024 and 2.9% a year over a 20-year period. Cash savings, meanwhile, suffered real-term losses of 2.9% over a decade and 1.8% over a 20-year span. Edge said she is in it for the long term, and she's tried her best to not look at how her investments have performed since she started, because she has plenty of time to ride out the inevitable ups and downs.
And that's a really mature investor's mentality to have for someone just getting started with investing. So what are her chances of being able to retire in 10 years?
I think that this is really going to come down to what her pension is and what she expects in retirement. If she invests aggressively over the next 10 years and has a reasonable pension, I don't see why she shouldn't be able to retire early. However, if she plans on traveling or going on vacations in her retirement, then she may be cutting it a little close with only investing for 10 years, regardless of her pension. When you retire early, you also must consider that your retirement savings must last longer than normal as well. And what about health insurance? That's not mentioned in the article.
Yeah, there are a couple of things. If she's in a balanced portfolio, she should be able to get some modest gains. And if she continues to invest additional money when there are buying opportunities. Obviously, she sounds like a very conservative person, and I would venture to guess that she is debt-free, and that goes a long way to help her cause. Between her pension, Social Security, and the money that she is now investing, with no debt, her budget and her lifestyle would need to be known to get a better picture. But if she lives modestly, and then she might be able to really pull this off. But it never helps. It never hurts to go to a financial advisor and lay out everything so they can give a picture for you.
It never helps.
Yeah.
Never helps to go see if I
Never hurts. Never hurts.
So this is the age old like cliche is, I need $1 million to retire. And we've seen so many different scenarios where either $1 million isn't near enough,
Right?
right? To the point of this article, it's like, okay, what's your lifestyle? What's your needs? Because if somebody likes to go on cruises every other month, probably $1 million is going to go pretty quick if that's the lifestyle you like to live. On the flip side, somebody might have $250,000 saved, but in this girl's situation, fixed income is going to take care of her. And if you're not a big spender, your $250,000 for the most part can just be left alone and, let the market do what it's going to do with it. So we see all different scenarios, but to this point, talk to an advisor. Let them get an idea of what your lifestyle is like and what your needs are going to be in retirement, and then they can try to build you a plan to sufficiently get to where you're going. You can call us at 922-8100, schedule a complimentary consultation, and we'd be happy to talk with you.
So this article reminds me of a couple that I saw years and years ago in the Macon office. And it blew my mind so much that I had to bring Steve Rosenberg in on another appointment with them because I could not figure out how to solve the problem. They were both spenders. They both could not hang on to a dime. They ate out all the time. They were constantly buying stuff. And we got that fleshed out in the first meeting. And so I was struggling with how are you going to live on a fixed income when you're used to spending everything that you're already making, and you're making way more than you're going to have
On your
when
fixed
you're
income.
retirement. And so I called Steve in, and we went through it all with him again because I couldn't figure out how to solve the problem. And he put them into a fixed annuity that was going to give them a payout for the rest of their lives so that they couldn't have their hands on that 401k money and just blow it on trips because that's what they wanted to do. And it wasn't going to work. It was stressful trying to figure out how to help them.
Yeah, I mean, for some people, you have to create the situation for them so that they can
Yes.
adjust.
Yes.
And it can't just be loosey goosey. Okay, well, here's your money, and then it'll be spent down in a hurry. It's okay. You're going to have X dollars a month coming from this thing for the rest of your life. Learn how to live on that because the rest of it cannot be touched. It has to happen sometimes.
And I had another guy. This reminds me of him. So he inherited like $800,000 and invested it with us. And really nice guy, didn't want to work anymore, and was big into motorcycles. So I have him in for a review about 6 months later after we started investing him, and he had already seen what we were doing for him. And he wanted to buy a new truck, and because he didn't like his old truck anymore. And it's like, okay, how much is that going to cost? And they're expensive. It was not as bad as it is today.
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible today. So I'm like, okay, you're going to buy a truck and you're only going to spend X dollars. So he buys a truck, and then 6 months more later, he comes in and sees me, and he says, well, now that I have this truck, I really want new motorcycles, and I want a new trailer for the motorcycle so my girlfriend and I can go on these trips. And then you're going all these trips, and you're going to spend all this money on hotels. It was a disaster, and he wouldn't listen to anything I had to say, and he spent all of his money in 2 years. He spent it all down. I'd never seen anything like that in my life, and I couldn't stop it. So please don't do that.
Yeah, well, we've talked on the show before many times about people coming into unexpected or money that
Yes.
they've never seen in their lives, and all of a sudden you have $800,000, and it can be a very bad thing because then you can go on a spending spree. You can
New
get
house, new
new
cars,
house, yep, new
When you
motorcycles.
buy a new house, you're going to have new furniture
Yep.
to go with the house, and then you got to do new drapes and everything else that goes along. I mean, don't go there.
Right. It's kind of like the lottery thing where they say,
Oh my gosh.
Don't win it.
60%
Yes.
of them go bankrupt within 1 or 2 years or
Right.
something.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So plan ahead, plan safely. Come see us. Let us help you make a plan.
There you go. Okay, prediction markets. This is something that's comical to me, but retail traders are getting crushed in prediction markets. Prediction markets have quickly moved into the spotlight. Many retail users now see them as a smarter way to trade. These platforms allow people to bet on real-world outcomes using logic and information. From elections to economic trends, everything looks predictable. This idea attracts thousands of new users every month. However, recent research reveals a very harsh reality. Retail participants face serious prediction market risks that most fail to understand. Data shows that every day, traders lose more money than sportsbook bettors. I couldn't believe that. This finding challenges the belief that knowledge-based betting offers a clear advantage. The numbers tell a very different story.
The perception of control plays a major role here. Retail traders believe they can analyze news and make better decisions. They trust their understandings of events. But markets operate on efficiency, not opinions. This gap between confidence and reality drives consistent losses. It also exposes deeper flaws in how users approach these platforms. Another major issue comes from competition. Prediction markets attract highly skilled players with better tools and capital. Retail users often compete against them unknowingly. This imbalance increases prediction market risk and makes winning extremely difficult. Many traders enter thinking it's easy money, but exit with losses.
Here's the reason why prediction markets feel easy but actually aren't. Prediction markets appear simple because they connect to everyday events. People follow news, politics, and global developments daily. This familiarity creates a false sense of expertise. Retail traders feel confident placing trades based on headlines. However, real trading demands more than surface knowledge. Professionals rely on data models, probability calculations, and market signals. They act faster and smarter. Retail users cannot match that level of precision. This gap creates consistent retail trading losses over time.
Markets also adjust instantly to new information. Prices already affect widely known news. Retail traders often react late. By the time they place trades, professionals have already positioned themselves. This delay reduces the chances of profit significantly. Research shows a clear difference between prediction markets and traditional betting. Many expected prediction markets to perform better. They assumed knowledge-based trading would reduce losses. Instead, the opposite has happened. Retail users lose more consistently in these markets.
And one reason lies with overconfidence. Traders believe they have an edge when they do not actually have an edge. They trade more frequently and take larger risks. This behavior increases exposure to prediction market risks. Over time, small losses compound into bigger ones. Another factor involves liquidity. Large players dominate many markets. Their trades move prices and create unfavorable conditions for smaller users. Retail traders struggle to exit positions at the right time. This leads to additional retail trading losses.
That is a big deal. I've seen people do this.
Yep. Here's some things that retail traders should understand before entering. Retail traders must approach prediction markets with caution. Understanding prediction markets risks should be the first step. These platforms do not guarantee profits. In fact, far from it. Users should treat them as competitive financial systems. Success requires strategy, discipline, and data. Casual participation often leads to losses. Risk management also plays a key role. Traders must avoid overexposure and emotional decisions. Small adjustments can reduce retail trading losses over time. Finally, expectations must remain realistic. Prediction markets reward expertise, not intuition. Retail traders must accept this reality before entering.
Right. Prediction markets continue to grow in popularity. They offer an innovative way to trade on real-world events. However, the data shows a clear trend. Retail traders lose more than expected. The combination of efficiency, competition, and overconfidence drives these losses. While the concept feels simple, execution remains complex. Retail users face strong opponents with better tools and strategies. Understanding these dynamics can help traders make better decisions. Without awareness, losses will continue to rise. Prediction markets may look like easy opportunities, but they demand serious skill and discipline.
Yep, and a little bit more on the prediction markets front. Because of this controversy, the Senate has banned its own members and staff from betting in prediction markets. The Senate has approved a bipartisan resolution to prevent its own members from using prediction markets, banning senators who who are often privy to sensitive information from making bets on upcoming events. I love this.
I wonder how they're going to keep up with that.
I don't know, but if they're banned from it altogether, then
Maybe they could go to jail.
yeah, maybe.
That's wishful thinking.
The measure that passed unanimously by voice vote was written as a change to the Senate's rules, so it will go into effect immediately. It comes a week after U.S. Special Forces soldier was a week after a U.S. Special Forces soldier was charged with using classified information to bet on the January capture of Venezuela's then president Nicolas Maduro. And as lawmakers increasingly voice concerns about who might be making public wagers on the war with Iran.
United States senators have no business engaging in speculative activities like prediction markets while collecting a taxpayer-funded paycheck, period, says Senator Bernie Moreno from Ohio, who sponsored the resolution. An amendment by Senator Padilla from California broadened the measure to include staff. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said the move was a no-brainer. Now, that's a big change for him.
Yeah.
He encouraged the House and Trump administration to do the same. We must never allow Congress to turn into a casino where members representing the public can gamble on wars and economic crises or elections, Schumer said. That would destroy the very principle of representative government. About time.
Yep.
Senator Todd Young and Elisa Slotkin have introduced a bill to ban all federally elected officials and government employees from using insider information to make prediction market bets. Young said the resolution was a good first step, and he encouraged the Senate to take up their bill. Prediction markets, including the betting platform Polymarket and its chief rival Khaleesi, have come under scrutiny as the business has expanded. Polymarket has received particular criticism as a venue for offshore trades that are beyond the reach of U.S. regulators.
Gee. Earlier this month, the Associated Press reported that a group of new accounts on Polymarket made highly specific, well-timed bets on whether the United States and Iran would reach a ceasefire on April 7th, resulting in hundreds of thousands of dollars in profits for the new customers. On the same day, the AP published the report. The White House warned staff against using private information to trade on prediction markets. The administration has been a key ally of the growing prediction market industry in a legal fight with states seeking to ban the platforms. Donald Trump Jr. is an advisor for both Polymarket and Kalshi. Trump's social media platform, Truth Social, is also launching its own cryptocurrency-based prediction market called Truth Predict. The whole world, unfortunately, has become somewhat of a casino, and you look at what's going on all over the world in Europe, and every place they're doing these betting things, Trump said this month. Next, China dominates the world lithium supply. The U.S. has just found 328 years worth. I thought it was 32 billion for a second. Sorry. The ubiquity of the element is why the United States Geological Survey deemed it a critical mineral in November. While the U.S. remains highly reliant on imports of lithium, a new report from the USGS found an estimated 2.3 million metric tons of the lithium oxide in Appalachia, enough to replace 328 years worth of U.S. imports at last year's level. This research shows that the Appalachians contain enough lithium to help meet the nation's growing needs, a major contribution to the U.S. mineral security at a time when global lithium demand is rising rapidly.
The discovery comes as the demand for lithium continues to snowball as manufacturers ditch conventional lead acid or alkaline for lithium-ion batteries. The USGS expects global lithium production capacity to double by 2029 on increasing demands. While the U.S. imports the majority of its lithium carbonate, the compound critical to the lithium-ion battery production, primarily from Chile and Argentina, China dominates the supply of finished lithium-ion batteries, powering everything from EVs to phones and laptops. The U.S. imported nearly $85 million worth of lithium-ion batteries from China over the past year. The import of lithium-ion batteries is particularly costly as both Trump and Biden administrations have levied tariffs on Chinese imports of the product.
Yep. Here's more about the scale of the lithium found in the U.S. Out of the 2.3 million metric tons of lithium oxide that the USGS estimates may be economically recoverable from the Appalachian pegmatites, that was a new word for me, which are large grained rocks similar to granite, about 1.43 million metric tons are estimated to be locked in the southern Appalachians, concentrated in the Carolinas. About another 900,000 metric tons are under the forests of rural western Maine and New Hampshire. The scale of lithium in the U.S. is massive. USGS estimates it's enough to power 130 million EVs, or enough for more than 1/3 of the U.S. population to own one. It's enough for 3 billion tablets and laptops, 500 billion cell phones, or 1.6 million electric grid batteries.
That is so cool.
That's a lot. Lithium is also critical to the AI infrastructure build-out. Lithium-ion batteries last 2 to 3 times longer than conventional batteries. They recharge faster than the average battery, making them a preferred choice for data centers. The batteries are critical backup energy source for data centers during power outages. Hyperscalers are buying into that belief. Last year, Google announced the company had deployed 100 million lithium-ion batteries in its data centers.
Here's where the U.S. stands in lithium production. The problem is accessing the lithium. The U.S. was the dominant world producer of lithium 3 decades ago. While domestic demand for the material is robust, lithium production today pales in comparison to it in the past production levels. The U.S. hosts just a handful of lithium projects, where the element is processed and refined, concentrated in areas outside of where the 2.3 million metric tons are estimated to be, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Nevada hosts the most projects, as well as the only operating lithium mine in the country in Silver Peak, Nevada. The U.S. produced just 610 metric tons of lithium in 2024. That's only 0.3% of all global production.
But the U.S. is investing in lithium extraction. The Department of Energy finalized a $225 million grant for Standard Lithium and Equinor's Southwest Arkansas Lithium Project, which is targeting an initial 22,500 metric tons of annual battery-quality lithium carbonate production. That comes as firms flock to the state to extract the element. A chemical extraction process developed by Standard Lithium is focusing on a region of Arkansas the company estimates to hold about 1.2 million tons of lithium reserves, according to a report. Still, the USGS says the recent discovery offers a lifeline to the U.S. to take a claim amid the skyrocketing global lithium demand. This research highlights the abundant potential to reclaim our mineral independence, which this is so cool.
Yeah,
this
is cool.
happening.
I love reading that. All right, next up, patients are diagnosing themselves with home tests, devices, and chatbots. With a shortage of doctors, long wait times for appointments, and an increasing prevalence of chronic diseases such as diabetes earlier in adulthood, patients are taking a more active role in managing their own health. Similar to the way workers who once depended on employers to oversee their retirement pensions were handed the reins with 401k plans, patients are shouldering responsibility for diagnosing their own symptoms, tracking their own medical data, and even ordering their own lab tests. The challenges aren't unlike those of managing one's own financial portfolio, vetting sources of information, evaluating new products, and making informed decisions about complex topics. In today's fast-evolving healthcare landscape, AI and other new technologies and services are emerging to help patients find and act on medical information.
The DIY health trend brings risks like relying on diagnostic and treatment information that hasn't been reviewed by a clinician, says Dr. Tom Del Banco, a professor at the Harvard Medical School who focuses in primary care, but he sees significant benefits. The evidence shows that the more a patient gets involved in their own care, the better the outcomes, he says. In the future, primary care doctors could act more as expert consultants rather than bosses to the patients. Here are some of the most important developments shaping the new patient paradigm and precautions that could come using them.
Yep. One is ordering your own tests. Companies that process lab tests for doctors like LabCorp and Quest Diagnostics have been expanding the range of tests they offer directly to consumers. Quest, for example, offers more than 150 tests ranging from a $29 complete blood count, which helps identify anemia and other blood disorders, to specific blood tests for micronutrient deficiencies and tests for several sexually transmitted diseases. The tests aren't covered by insurance, but some may be eligible for special accounts using pre-tax money to pay for health costs. Quest says among its most popular tests is a $385 comprehensive health profile that analyzes more than 75 markers, including those related to heart, kidney, and liver health, as well as diabetes risk. It includes an evaluation taking in family history, lifestyle, and wellness behaviors, and creates a health risk score ranging from 1 to 100.
Most blood tests involve blood drawing at a Quest service center, but consumers can also pay $79 for an in-home appointment from a mobile phlebotomist in some markets. That's pretty phenomenal. The company is responding to demand by patients who want to be more involved with their care and control of their own data, says Quest Chief Medical Officer. Quest contracts with physicians who must review and approve orders. They are also available to consult on the results. With a shortage of both primary care doctors and specialists, the consumer-ordered test can help identify those most in need of follow-up and identify red flags early. Both LabCorp and Quest encourage patients to follow up with their own physician to review results and determine any next steps.
More companies are offering wellness plans and supplements directly to consumers based on data from blood tests, DNA analysis, and data from wearable devices. A 2023 study of 21 companies that offer direct-to-consumer tests cautioned that the trend raises ethical issues, including the use of personal data and the potential lack of follow-up for abnormal results. Anna Wexler, an author of the study and assistant professional of medical ethics and health policy at the University of Pennsylvania Perelman School of Medicine, says consumers should stick to tests that have been shown to give reliable results. Tests that claim to estimate biological age, identify food sensitivities, and predict fertility, for example, often don't meet validated clinical standards and may mislead consumers or lead them to buy products that they don't need.
Wearables and devices. Technology is growing beyond the already popular use of smartphones or smartwatches to track steps per day, sleep quality, or heart health. In a recent survey of 1,653 adults, roughly two-thirds of respondents said that they used such apps to track health information. Patients with atrial fibrillation can now monitor their heart rhythm with a do-it-yourself electrocardiogram on devices that interface with a smartphone app and range from $79 to $129.
I have clients that do this constantly.
Yep. New devices can screen for sleep apnea, measure blood pressure without arm cuffs, and detect early signs of illness. In development are smart mirrors that can use sensors, displays, and software to monitor changes in appearance, mood, or vital signs while patients are brushing their teeth and getting ready for the day. That is so cool.
That is very cool.
Data privacy is a concern. In one study by UK researchers, participants with health conditions like multiple sclerosis and stroke said they'd be interested in a smart mirror that would help them manage their symptoms and offer support if they could have control over who used the data. Devices are becoming better at not only tracking symptoms but predicting their onset. For patients with respiratory diseases like asthma, researchers at Georgia Tech used AI to develop a wearable patch with a seismometer microchip that can detect tiny vibrations or wheezing sounds that could signal the need for treatment. Studies by the group, including one published in March in the journal Nature, showed it to be highly accurate. Such patches could be used for home monitoring by transmitting data to the patient's doctor, the researchers said. A spinoff from the university is commercializing the patch with federal funding. A special home phototherapy device to treat psoriasis is effective as going to a doctor's office for the therapy, according to research funded by the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute. Patients also use the treatment more consistently and have fewer indirect costs such as travel and time off from work. Some insurers are already covering the home treatment, and the National Psoriasis Foundation, a collaborator on the study, is supporting expanded coverage.
The AI chatbot both patients and caregivers are turning to is ChatGPT and other AI chatbotters for help diagnosing symptoms, managing chronic diseases, and getting advice on exercise and nutrition, and researching treatment for serious or rare diseases. AI doesn't care how many questions you ask. It can provide expertise and translate the medical jargon, and your time is not up after 15 or 20 minutes. Consumers don't always find AI health information reliable, leading some healthcare providers to develop their own AI tools for their patient portals. And a report published in December warned of an urgent need to assist patients with using these new technologies as safely and efficiently as possible, citing concerns about misinformation, lack of regulation, data privacy risks, and insufficient research on the actual benefits and harms of patient use of AI. However, patients are saying, look, if I have to wait 6 weeks to see a specialist to get answers about this, that is a safety risk as well.
I'm just amazed at the number of my clients that have devices that they use that either track their blood pressure automatically and it reports it to their cell phone so they can see their blood pressure all day long, or even that an alarm will go off if their blood sugar is too low, like in the middle of the night even. I had people in just last week that she gets woken up by her phone if her blood pressure, if her blood sugar drops too much. She has to get up and eat something. So this whole thing could be a serious game changer for your life and your health insurance. And then if it's all automatically reported to your doctor electronically, then they can see what's going on with you and understand what's happening if they make an appointment with you and you come in and see them. I think it's huge. I think this is great.
Agreed. AI is going to be stepping in big ways, health and otherwise, for all of us. All right, that's it for us this week, guys. Everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you next weekend.
Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing they do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage their clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact their office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. You can learn more about them by visiting their website, retirerelax.com. And if you have a question or a topic that you would like them to cover in next week's broadcast, you can email Randy at rfmoney.com. They look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.